This entire city must be purged.
What?
Then I must consider this an act of treason.
Treason?
Lord Uther, get out of my sight.
You've just crossed a terrible threshold, Arthas.
That's alright, Uther. I don't need you or your men. I will purge this city myself. Hi, I'm Amon, and I've tried beating the Warcraft 3 human campaign without building anything. That means no building buildings, no building units, and no recruiting mercenaries. The last of which is going to be particularly painful on the boat level, but we'll blow up that boat when we get to it. So what I have in the beginning of the level is all that I'm going to get. And of course, I have to play on the hardest difficulty. Only the full pain and suffering counts.
The key is preparation.
First up is a no-build mission, so I don't have much to talk about here. I got a tome as a reward for a side quest, I collected every item I deemed worthy in preparation for what is to come, and I killed every civilian so they don't get infested later, and definitely not because I like war crimes.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Alright, a macro mission. Finally the challenge starts. Wait a second, I have to build something? Oh well, I guess that's it. Thank you for watching, like, share, subscribe if you liked the video, and I'll see you in the next campaign. Peace! Just kidding, this objective is more of a suggestion than an actual objective. If I kill the boss at the end of the level, I win. The level itself is actually very easy. In fact, out of the first 4 missions in this campaign, 2 are no build missions and 2 are pretty easy build missions. And I use those to hoard as many items as possible, because the real pain in this campaign starts at the defense mission on level 5, and it won't stop until the end of the campaign. On this level I start with Arthas, but I soon found a couple of rifle dwarves on the map, and I managed to slay a dragon with my dwarves, so I acquired a nice burning AoE item. Then I went around the map to find some more items that are going to help me in the future. After getting everything worthwhile, it was time to fight the enemy boss. And after unsuccessfully dodging his ultimate, I lost Arthas. And since I'm too lazy to reload, the dwarves I brought with me are going to have to finish this mission. And they barely do, after successfully playing a round of rock, paper, scissors, rifle.
It's been a while since a prince escorted me anywhere.
Yes, it has.
The next mission is another no-build mission. The goal of this one is to escort the young princess to the bedroom. I mean, the other side of the map. Just like in the first mission, I got all the items I thought were interesting, murdered entire families of civilians, and I got to the end. There we found a shipment of super healthy grain, and Arthas wanted it all to himself so he could last longer in the bedroom. I mean the battlefield. Okay, now we're done with no build missions. It's all suffering from now on. And our first mission of suffering is the Cult of the Damned, where I have to kill a wizard who has done nothing wrong. But we're still pretty far from getting there, and that's what she said. I start the level with my heroes, a mortar team, a priest, and 3 footmen, and those are amongst my most numerous starting units in this run, which will tell you a lot about the missions that are to come. First, I went exploring a bit with Arthas and his princess. They needed to spend some quality time as a couple. And while they were doing what couples usually do in the middle of the forest with nobody around to see them, I got attacked by a bunch of enemies, so I had to enlist a couple of militia to help me defend. After that, Arthas and Jaina discovered a shop that sells a few items, the most important of which is the mana potion. So I put the princess next to it and I just bought as many as I possibly can. And I did that every time it was available. Then I went with Arthas through the enemy base, and I got to the second shop which sells health potions and scrolls of healing, both of which are gonna be super important in the next mission. And then my base got attacked by a huge enemy force and it dropped dead. But that's alright, I already got what I needed. Arthas and his princess stocked up on potions, so it was time to end this level. So Arthas just walked to the enemy wizard and zapped him. I'm so lucky this level was so well designed. GG.
You're sturdier than I thought.
Sturdy and purdy.
This is where the run actually starts to get crazy. Everything so far has been manageable, but we are starting to get into the domain of near impossible now. I start the level with 25 supply of units, and I'm supposed to defend for 30 minutes with this. Okay, I found 3 more footmen in the bottom, but that's it. 31 supply versus the infinity of units that are about to come. The first thing I did when I started the level was get all the upgrades I can. And yes, upgrades are allowed, however making upgrade buildings isn't. So I can only upgrade stuff if I start the level with an upgrade building. Money is going to be extremely high in this run, so I'll try to make use of it wherever I can. The second thing I did was move to the middle of the map with Arthas to save a civilian trapped in a cage. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to finish him off after saving him because I was attacked by sea creatures. But he gave me boots of speed as a reward, and those are going to be incredibly useful on this level because there is going to be a lot of running around. The first couple of attack waves were easy to take down, but I had to micro and make sure none of my units die. This isn't a deathless run, but every unit lost means I will permanently lose some of my damage output, and I really can't afford that on this mission. By the way, the only regular source of healing for my units on this level is this one priest, who must have had more work than the doctors during COVID. One of the problems on this mission is the undead caravan that moves around villages and recruits villagers against me. The caravan spawns at 22.5 minutes, so I decided to spawn camp it. I killed the necromancers next to them and I started focusing on the caravans. Counterintuitively, it's less painful if I kill the caravans quickly and heal up the damage with my health potions than focusing the rest of its escort. At one point, an enemy attack wave came to my base and I had to carefully take it down while fighting the caravans with Arthas. After being done with the caravans before they even gave me the quest to kill them, I gained a crown of kings which made me King Arthas, and I teleported back to my base. And we are yet to come to the insane part of this level, by the way. The princess left me in the middle of the night, but she left in a hurry and she forgot her underwear. I mean her items. So I made sure to restock on what she left. Plus there is a shop to the north which also sells some more potions to restock. Then I went with Arthas to the purple base, and there I started poking people with my holy light, so they would come to my base as low as possible. But I had to make sure I don't kill them, otherwise they would just replace them with a new unit. One of the problems in both bases are liches, which deal huge damage with their frost nova, so I had to try and damage them as much as possible without killing them either. And for the next 10 minutes I felt pretty comfortable. But now the enemy is going into overdrive. The green player decided to attack me with a huge wave, and I managed to defend myself, but I was only left with Arthas now. And I was starting to get low on health potions and low on buildings as well. By the way, if I lose all my buildings, I lose the level. And I can build some new building at the edge of the map to keep me alive. So I have to somehow defend at least one building in my base. With just Arthas. And with 2 huge armies going after the base, sending everything they have in the last 2 minutes. Needless to say, I got obliterated and it wasn't even close. But then, in my moments of despair, I suddenly looked at my feet. And then I remembered I wasn't barefooted. I had an item on them. So I did the only thing I could do. I started running. You see, the enemies will try to attack whoever annoys them the most. So I poked the enemies with Arthas to annoy them as much as possible. And then I started running. For my dear life. I got a bit lucky because both armies started attacking me at the same time. So I managed to relieve a lot of the pressure off my base. And when I managed to make a giant circle around my base with Arthas, there was nothing else I could do but pray that I pulled enough enemies onto me. And before my death, I picked up a couple of items that were still on the floor, so I died in peace. And despite the enemies killing my town center, there were still a couple of houses left. The sturdiest houses in the land. And I won. Wow, was this hard. And we are barely at the halfway mark.
This entire city must be purged.
Next up is the calling. In the intro, I said I was going to do this without Uther and his army, and I sure meant it. The only thing I have with me here are 2 brave knights and footmen who are willing to do what needs to be done. And what needs to be done is inspect as many houses as possible for potential structural problems. If a house is weak enough to be destroyed with swords and hammers, It's a safety hazard and needs to be taken down. And the people inside are putting themselves and others in danger. And remember, there are no fines in my kingdoms. There is only one punishment for such transgressions: death. I started inspecting houses towards the left side of the map, where I found a shop which I used to replenish the potions I used on the last level. Since I'm so used to executing people by now, I've developed some effective microing skills which allowed me to be very quick with getting towards my quota of 100 executions. In fact, I was so quick that I didn't even care what the other guy on the level was doing. I knew I was going to outpace him. Turns out that committing war crimes in my other videos was not only fun, but also pretty useful. The only thing that worried me here were the attack waves against my base. I had to teleport once to defend, so I lost some time there, but my numbers were still looking good. And this made me so confident that I decided to leave my base unguarded. After inspecting some more houses, there was a giant attack wave going after my base. So this level turned into a race against the clock. And just as I needed a couple more houses, a giant abomination spawned and started going after me. But I decided to be a big boy and let it hit me while I finished off the last couple of citizens. This level was surprisingly easy, to be honest. I guess that means I did the right thing killing all those civilians. So yeah, Uther, I don't need you or your armies. My 2 brave knights and footmen are enough to do what needs to be done.
Bloody hell. You're not undead. You're all alive.
And we have arrived at the Norse portion of this campaign. After being stranded in the middle of nowhere, I met up with a gnome hero who has been stranded here for years and who has lost most of his sanity. Thankfully, he doesn't need too much of it on this level. I went with my pretty solid number of units north and I destroyed the enemy base there. Then I gained control of an allied base where I gained even more units. The base also has a forge, so I can buy some upgrades now. And then I went to fight a reviving Sasquatch in the middle of the map for a nice little belt of strength item. The enemy started attacking my newly acquired base, but they don't know that I'm playing a no production challenge run and that base is pretty useless to me. So I went after their base. And since they just sent out an attack wave, they had very few units defending it. So I made good use of that. I destroyed most of their defenders, but the enemy is actually not an idiot. So they pulled their units from my base that they were attacking to defend. But it was too little, too late. I already took out most of their units and I just took care of the stragglers. And that was it. And now it's time to inspect some boats.
I feel like we're forgetting something.
You know how I said no mercenaries when I laid the rules of the run? Well, that is going to make this mission feel a lot more fun, because I start the level with 2 heroes and 2 mortar teams. And that's all I'm going to get on this level, where I have to go through a map filled with enemy units. Now let the fun begin. After taking down the initial couple of enemies, I arrived at the mercenary camp, and all I'm allowed to do here is watch it. The next portion of the map features a bunch of enemies waiting for me. This portion isn't too difficult to clear on my own, but it does take some time to do that. Oh, and did I mention that there is a time limit on this mission? A time limit on a mission where my damage output is about 4 times less than normal. Fun stuff. The goal of the mission is to inspect my boats and check their structural integrity. If they can't survive a couple of mortar fireballs, they have no place serving in my navy. And the first boat I came across is such a boat. Or was such a boat. Then I lost some time killing a couple of spiders and it was time to inspect another boat. After a successful inspection, I came across a bunch of dragons. And since my 4 guys can't do anything against them, I avoided them and found a little shop in the middle of the map. This is where stuff starts getting interesting. I would really like to buy some potions for the final mission, but I have a time limit so I can't really wait forever here. But I did wait for a couple of minutes to buy at least a couple of potions. I decided to risk it. Then I went through an enemy alley of death, and I recalled my units from the other side, and I successfully inspected another boat. 1 more boat left, and that one is insanely well defended. From one side. But why don't I get to the other one? I used one of my scrolls of town portal to portal me to my allied base. And then I used my mortars to take out a couple of trees that are blocking our view from the last boat. And guess what? The distance between the shore and the last boat is just enough for my mortars to inspect it. And that's it. No mercenaries required.
You lied to your men and betrayed the mercenaries who fought for you.
Muradin, there weren't any mercenaries helping us. You were literally there with me. You are such a liar. And lying to your prince is a crime punishable by death. And your sentence will be executed in the next mission.
I will bury the world in ice.
And this is it, the last mission. The first part of it requires me to defend with my units, while Arthas and Muradin search for a magical sword or whatever. I made sure not to lose any of my units during the enemy's attacks, and then I took out the Guardian of the Sword. Then I found said magical sword, and I promptly executed the lying Muradin with it. And now his items are left on the floor, free for the taking. Then I went towards the enemy main base, where I proceeded to kill a couple of enemies, so I reached level 3 on my Divine Shield ability. That allowed me to move towards the enemy citadel, and I started attacking it, while the enemies could just watch me for a whole 45 seconds as I was destroying their main building. There are acolytes that occasionally pop up and try to repair, but I instantly kill them with my smite. If you are wondering how I'm doing so much damage on the enemy building as a hero, the secret sauce here is my new sword, that turns out really is magical. It has been blessed to do chaos damage, which allows my hero to deal the same damage to any type of unit, or in this case, building. When I took out the enemy citadel, I town portaled to my base, and it was time to restock on the dead dwarf's items. And then it was time to return to the scene of the crime and finish what I started. There were 2 more acolytes in the enemy base, so they started building their citadel again. But I managed to smite them and kill the citadel foundation. That means every building I kill from now on is a permanent kill. So I started with the slaughterhouse and proceeded to move on to the necromancer building. And after that, the frostworm nest. The 45 seconds of invulnerability is just insane. It has a cooldown of 15 seconds after it expires. So I just have to run away a bit and heal myself, and I can start killing enemy buildings again. Unfortunately, that process is a bit slow, and I do get attacked sometimes in that period. But with some good micro, I make sure most of my units stay alive in such attacks. Then the enemy hero personally came into my base, and that fight was really tough. I actually lost most of my units here, but the enemy base was close to being dead, and the enemy hero was dead too, so once I killed their hero building, it was bye-bye Vampire Man. Then the rest of the enemy buildings quickly fell after that. And that was it. I have actually managed to beat the whole human campaign without building anything. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to be possible to do this for every level, and especially not on the hardest difficulty, but I was wrong. Gonna be honest, I had so much fun in this challenge, and I hope you had fun watching it. I'm very much looking forward to the next episode, and I hope I'll see you there as well. I can tell you this right away though, the Undead campaign is gonna be so much worse than this. So much worse, and without any free wins like the first 4 missions here were. So that is going to be a lot of fun. Once again, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, feel free to give me a thumbs up, and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. Peace!